December 31st, 2016. While most of the world was counting down to midnight, Craig Anderson was ending a decade-long relationship. Not with a person, with the company that had paid his bills since he was 10 years old.
But yeah, I turned down a contract which would have been like the most amount of money I could have ever made.
Quicksilver had put an offer on the table, a big one. Jordy Smith, one of Craig's closest friends, later said he heard the number was $600,000. Craig said no. No press conference, no Instagram post, no dramatic exit. He just quietly walked away from the most money he had ever been offered, in the middle of the night, on the last day of the year. Most people thought he was crazy. They didn't know Craig Anderson yet. Port Elizabeth, South Africa, 1988. Craig Anderson was born into a country that didn't have much of a surf culture. Not yet. But the ocean was right there, lapping the edges of a coastal town that most of the world has never heard of. His neighborhood was called Blue Water Bay, and for a kid growing up next to the waves of the Eastern Cape, that name meant everything. His dad surfed, so Craig surfed. He was 8 years old when he first got on a board, and from the very first session, something was different. The way he moved, the way he read the water. His father could see it. Most parents would call it natural talent. In Port Elizabeth, they called it a blessing. By the time Craig was 10, the surf world could see it too. Quicksilver, one of the biggest surf brands on the planet, the company that had Kelly Slater and Rob Machado, and an entire generation of legends stitched to their chest, signed a 10-year-old kid from South Africa, a kid who had barely left his home province. That contract was the first major fork in Craig Anderson's road, and for 5 years, everything seemed to be going exactly to plan. In 2003, Craig was 15 years old. His family packed everything they owned into bags, loaded into a Toyota Camry at the airport, and drove to Maitland, a suburb outside Newcastle on Australia's east coast. The transition should have been difficult. New country, new lineups, new everything. But Craig had his board, and in Newcastle, the surf culture ran through the streets like blood. Merriweather, Bar Beach, the kind of spots where you earned your place in the water by how you surfed, not what you looked like or where you came from. There was one small problem. He showed up at the local beaches with Quicksilver stickers on his board, and the Australian crew had no idea who he was. Pretty much, Craig said years later, I just got new boards and didn't have any stickers. He blended in, quietly became one of them, then quietly became better than all of them. The deal was always that Craig would compete. That was the Quicksilver model. Sponsor the talent early, build them toward the championship tour, get the results that sell product. Craig competed. Through his teens, he entered contests, traveled the qualifying series circuit, and tried to find something he could love about heat surfing. He never found it. I was never the best surfer in the water in a heat, he said once, and he lacked a taste for the aggression and the hassling that heat surfing demands. Competition surfing needs a particular mentality. You have to want to win badly enough to park your creativity and surf for scores. Craig didn't have that gear. His surfing was too fluid, too personal, too much like art to be squeezed into 25-minute heats. He kept at it until he was 20 years old, and then a phone call changed everything. Kai Neville was making a film, Modern Collective, a movie that would eventually be called one of the most important surf films ever made. The cast was loaded. Dane Reynolds, Jordy Smith, Dion Aegis, Dusty Payne. Dion Aegis broke his ankle. Kai needed a replacement. He called Craig. And Craig, who had been about to fly to South Africa for a competitive event, called his dad instead. Told him he wasn't getting on the plane. He was staying to film. His father was baffled. From where he stood, the only future in surfing ran through competition. Craig saw something else entirely. Modern Collective dropped in 2010. It won the Surfer Poll Movie of the Year. It didn't just announce a new generation of surfers, it announced a new philosophy. Forget perfect conditions. Forget glassy offshore waves. This was performance surfing shot in chunky onshore slop, in unnamed breaks, with a soundtrack that sounded like nothing surf films had used before. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, Craig Anderson was the still point, the one who made everything look inevitable. The film set him on a path he would never leave. Kai Neville kept him on the cast. Lost Atlas, Dear Suburbia, Cluster, each film another chapter in what surf media started calling the defining visual record of a generation. Surf Europe magazine wrote that Craig was the most beautiful, aesthetically pleasing rider of a surfboard the world has ever known. Surf writer Jed Smith called him the premier stylist of his generation. Then came Welcome Elsewhere, 2016. Craig's own film, released the same year he walked away from Quicksilver. Footage from a session at Kandui Lefts, shot on a tiny 5'4" Hypto-Crypto surfboard, went viral. The wave was enormous, the board looked like a toy, and Craig surfed it like he was on his home beach. That clip made Hayden Shapes the #1 selling surfboard brand in the world that year. Craig Anderson didn't need a world title. He was already moving the market. December 31st, 2016. Craig's Quicksilver contract expired, and the company wanted to keep him. Of course they did. He was one of the most recognizable faces in surf culture. He moved boards, moved apparel, moved entire demographics. The offer on the table reflected that. Jordy Smith said he heard the number was $600,000. Craig turned it down. He had been watching what Dane Reynolds was doing. Dane had left Quicksilver not long before, and was in the early stages of building something new, something artist-run, athlete-controlled, free from seasonal drop schedules and marketing team sign-offs and sales rep meetings. He had an idea to pull Craig in. The plan was simple: start a brand, make the films they wanted to make, work with people they actually respected. No one telling them what to wear, no one approving the footage, no one softening the edges. Craig had never started anything like this before. He didn't know if it would work. He thought it probably wouldn't. To be honest, he said later, we just thought we could do it better. He joined Dane. They brought in Austin Gillette, a skateboarder with a rabid following and a taste for creative independence that matched their own. They called it Former. And with that, Craig Anderson did something almost no professional surfer had done before. He walked away from guaranteed money. He walked away from a machine that would have kept making him famous. He walked away because he needed to know what he could build if nobody was watching. Former launched in early 2017, and it was immediately, visibly different from anything the surf world had seen before. Athlete-owned brands weren't new in skateboarding. Girl Skateboards, Huff, almost every label worth buying in that world came from the skaters themselves. But in surfing, the big companies had always owned the surfers. That was how the industry worked. Former was betting it could work another way. Craig's first film for the brand was Luxury $29.99, an 8-minute short. No CGI, no tour footage, no competition results. Just Craig surfing waves nobody else was surfing, in places that didn't show up on Google Maps, with a camera crew small enough to fit in one car. The surf world loved it, but love doesn't pay bills. The early years of Former were rough. They made every kind of mistake you can make when you've never run a business before. Supplier issues, seasonal timing, distribution gaps. Craig was now a business owner, a creative director, a team manager, and still one of the best surfers in the world all at once. He didn't complain about it, he just kept working. Then the world shut down. In March 2020, the pandemic stopped everything. Travel, the lifeblood of a free surfer's career, became impossible overnight. Former supply chains were disrupted. The teams scattered to their home countries and stayed there. For Craig, locked in Newcastle, something unexpected happened. His girlfriend moved up from Sydney. They made a home together for the first time. Cooking, walking the beach, surfing because they felt like it, not because a camera was rolling. My priorities changed, Craig said. I got married. The pandemic had, accidentally, given him something he hadn't known he was missing. A life that didn't revolve entirely around chasing swells. When travel opened back up, he went to Europe, Ireland, one of those hidden slab breaks that looks terrifying on any given day. He paddled out. 2 sessions in, a wave threw him onto the reef. Torn ligaments in his right foot, 8 months on the couch. He later said the injury gave him a new appreciation for his body, for how much he had gotten away with over a career spent throwing himself at shallow water reefs in his board shorts. 8 months to think about what he wanted the next chapter to look like. By 2023, Craig was healthy. The foot had healed. Former had steadied, and he had something he hadn't felt in years: the travel bug. He started chasing the trips he had always wanted but never prioritized. Long lefts in Chile, Jeffreys Bay, Namibia. Waves that asked for patience and subtlety instead of size and danger. In November 2024, a new collaboration dropped. Into the Light. Shot in the pre-dawn dark with filmmaker Steve Wall and photographer Dave Fox. The images were unlike anything Craig had released before. Minimal, quiet, lit from below the waterline. Surf media reacted the way they always do when Craig puts something out: reverently. At 36 years old, Craig Anderson is still doing something that almost nobody else in the water is doing. He is surfing entirely on his own terms. Not for a company, not for a ranking, not for a number on a contract that nobody outside his inner circle will ever see. There's a version of Craig Anderson's life where he took the $600,000 and kept his mouth shut. Where he flew to events he didn't care about, wore the clothes they told him to wear, and let someone else decide when his surfing was worth filming. He'd probably still be famous. He'd definitely be richer. But the waves he chased would not have been his. The films he made would not have been his. And the generation of surfers he inspired by showing them what it looks like to walk away from the machine would have had no one to look at. Craig Anderson left millions on the table. What he built with his hands instead was worth more than any number Quicksilver could have written on a page. If you want to see another surfer who made a choice that changed everything, the video is on screen now. Subscribe for more stories like this.